So you should be removing any wet building materials as soon as possible after the flood. Make sure the house is fully dried out before you start to install new materials. Wall cavities especially should not be sealed up until after they are completely dry. You should take anything that got wet during the flood, furniture, boxes, whatever, take it out of the house. Get it out of the house. Don't try to move these to a different part of the house because it will just spread the mold problem if there's going to be a mold problem. Instead, take them outside, put them in the garage, whatever you can do. If mold is already growing on them, good idea to put them carefully into plastic before you move them. Remember, these are spores. They can become airborne. They can spread, and they can pack up and move somewhere else and start again. So you will have to decide whether to throw these things away or to clean them and set them aside until you're ready to bring them back inside. It is best to throw away porous items which have absorbed water and which cannot be dried thoroughly within 24 to 48 hours. Also, any objects that have mold growing on them that can't be properly cleaned, got to throw them out. Sorry about it. Clothes and bedding can be washed in your washing machine and kept. That's not a problem. When you vacuum with a non-HEPA vacuum cleaner, most more mold spores will pass right through the filtration, out the exhaust, back into the air, and get spread around the house. They are just too small for ordinary filters to trap them. In fact, vacuuming with a non-HEPA filter can stir them up and put them in the air and spread them all over the house. So that can be a bad scene. You should never vacuum over a patch of mold growth using a non-HEPA vacuum. Central vacuum systems can help to remove them from the home as long as the air is exhausted to the outside. If mold has started to grow, you should try to contain the moldy areas so that mold spores are not spread around the house. And you shouldn't really begin the mold removal process until after the house is dried out. I mean, the real mold, any deep mold. Because mold can attach to dirt. So the cleaning has to happen first. Ideally, you need to complete the mold remediation before anyone occupies the house again. Who knows if that's possible? We have a question. Is there a way to remove mold or remedial work that is substantially succumbed to the floor joist, flooring, or studs? What methods are used to clean mold? Typically, from what I've seen in this hurricane, the color varies from white, green, brown, and gray. Yeah. Well, that's a tough question. It is the case that if it's rough lumber, it's going to have to be replaced. If there's mold on it and it's been there for a week, it's going to be into the fibers. If it's standard lumber with a sheen on the edges, then it's very possible that you could clean it off. Keep it clean, keep the area dry, and it's possible that you won't have to replace those floor joists. But yeah, in some cases, you may have to replace floor joists. Yeah, lots of different colors. It's one of the more difficult things. Let's see. Does the salinity of seawater mitigate, exacerbate, or have no effect on the likelihood of mold growth? Well, the salt itself is probably an inhibitor to mold, but no, it's the moisture that's the problem. So if there's moisture, there's going to be mold. And so to eliminate the mold, you got to eliminate the moisture. Uh, yes. Sorry, everybody. The question is, should we replace the floor joists or just soak them with bleach? Well, obviously soak them with bleach and do your best to dry out the space before you replace them. But then you're going to have to pay attention and watch. Yes, I am going to talk about different ways and items to clean. So yeah, you try not to replace those floor joists, but yeah, there may not be many options. Is dead mold still dangerous? It's not dangerous unto itself. It's only dangerous if you have a moisture problem again. So no, dead mold is dormant, so to speak. Yeah, after cleaning up from a flood, there's a good chance it might start, that mold can start growing again in the future. Flood water can remain in the ground around the house. It can affect the foundation. Water that seeps up through the foundation can end up in the walls and the floorboards and lead to hidden mold. So if this happens, you'll eventually notice a mold odor, or you'll start to feel the health effects. So what does dead mold look like? Well, hopefully you can't see it. You clean your surfaces and you aren't going to see the dead mold, but if it's embedded in the fibers of your wood or embedded in the fibers of the materials around the wood, then well, you won't see it. It'll be virtually invisible. What do we use to clean porous items with mold? Well, I'll get into that in a little while. A couple slides. How about knowing the difference from mold stains and living mold? Well, that is a cleaning issue. So, you clean the mold, and if you still have a stain, well, that isn't mold. But the key there is we need to clean the mold, and I'm going to talk about how to clean mold in just a couple slides. And so this is really a good time for questions. I would encourage you to ask questions. If you have additional questions, I'm willing to take people off mute if they don't have background noise. But if I hear background noise, you're going right back on mute. Bob, you have no background noise. That's good. Dominic, no background noise. Ed, you have background. Oh, no. Ed, you have background noise. Well, actually, I think this typing in your questions is probably an easier way to go than taking you all off mute. So I think I'll do that instead. But feel free to ask more questions. Yeah, exactly. Dumb questions are my specialty. I'll just, put that out there. Is sanding always a requirement for removing a mold colony? Well, not really. If you can remove the moisture in the air, if you can dry it out, if you can dry out the materials, then it may not be a requirement. You're just going to have to watch it. If it's been there for a week, 2 weeks, and it's, you think it may be embedded in the wood, yeah, you can tell from a hygrometer if a moisture meter, a pin moisture meter, you can stick it in there and see if there's still moisture in the wood. That is one of the indicators. And you can smell the wood, up close and personal. And if it's in there, yeah, you may have to do sanding. You may not be able to tell that the mold is in there right now, and you may have to just, watch it. So, did BPCA come up with a protocol to follow around mold? Not that I know of. There is no protocol. I think after I'm done, these slides may be able to function as a protocol. Do you recommend a commercial dehumidifier with constant air movement? I do not recommend constant air movement, but I do recommend a commercial dehumidifier. Do you think closed cell foam is affected if moisture has not passed to the underlayment? Gosh, Jarrett, that is a really good question. I'm going to have to write that question down and get that question answered for you. I don't know if I can answer that. I mean, it's always difficult to tell what's going on the other side of closed cell foam. So that's one of the reasons that we're sometimes wary of where we can use closed cell foam. But I'll make a note here, and I will get an answer back to you about that. Is it a good idea to take a good whiff of mold? Well, you don't have to take a good whiff to notice it. So no, I would say it's not a good idea to take a good whiff of mold. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. Do products like Kills help? Yes, I do think they help. I think they reduce moisture penetration, so I think they would help. But still, if something gets wet, it's wet. And Kills is only going to prevent moisture from penetrating. It's not going to prevent water from penetrating in most cases. At what point is a moldicide necessary? That's a strong question, but there's so many simple, natural products that you can use that I would stay away from the more dangerous products. And I'll go into some of those products. There's quite a few that are available, and quite a few that are not harmless. Here's a long question from Robert. So if mold, regardless of the color, has festered in the joist for more than a week, it must be removed. It depends on how moist it has been, I would have to say. But yeah, it very well may be, it has to be removed. It is critical to know if there are any mitigation methods to get rid of mold due to the engineer's report that I prepare. This can change the dynamics of the context of my letter to the town, the owner. It will make a huge difference if the joist has to be replaced. Oh yeah, don't I know that? And this is where, in some cases it may make sense to sand areas that you aren't sure. And then to investigate those areas before you decide whether you should, change out joists or something. Of course, that is the last resort. So, you wouldn't do that until you've exhausted all inspections. So yeah, tough answer, but that is it.